the most vulnerable thing. The reason why with 5 husbands and the person that she's now with is not her husband either. That's why she's at the well at noon, to avoid all of the scourge of gossip and blame that might be brought to her. All the things that disqualified her from communion with her community because of her own actions or the actions of others. In the context of that, Jesus, though, needs to name the deeper reality, which is a thirst that arises out of her own brokenness, out of her own alienation, which is why it's at noon, out of the division between Jews and Samaritans, out of the division that underscores human experience and existence. The text, the whole Bible, is replete with endless examples of broken communion. And one of the things I've always loved most about UPC's sanctuary is that the communion table is before you every Sunday. And it's a communion table with people who are confused, betrayers, doubters, people who in moments later will not understand at all what's going on, who will hide in fear, who are just the gaggle of the 12 that become the gaggle of the 11, who are simply the folks that have been brought together because of Jesus in all of their genuine humanity. And through all of Jesus' ministry, it's this truth-telling. It's about a genuine communion that in vulnerability and in brokenness and in uncertainty names the significance of what it is that God is really wanting to attend to. It's not a communion for the perfect. It's a communion for the unexpected, for the people who wouldn't ever imagine that such communion might actually be possible. It's a communion of a renewed heart and mind right in the place of greatest vulnerability, in this case, represented by the woman's relationship with her husband. Jesus said, "Go, call your husband and come back." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." And Jesus said to her, "You're right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you've had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband. What you have said is true." The woman said to him, "Sir, I see that you are a prophet." In other words, her first response is maybe partly protection, deflection is also possible. But in the context of it, there's this amazing sense that he's speaking a truth that names her reality and does it in a way that so far does not seem to bear hostile judgment, rejection. Instead, it's just a telling of the truth. So often in our lives, people who are truth tellers may be awkward, but they are also extraordinarily important. They help us see ourselves. They help us be able to say out loud the truth of who we are, why we are, how we are, where we are. And it's in that sort of a setting that now Jesus encounters this woman in communion. This is not a break in communion to say, "I will have nothing to do with you, for you are a woman who's had 5 husbands, and the man you're with now is not my husband." No, this instead is simply a statement of the truth. The text doesn't give us a clue of how it is that Jesus came to know that. He may have passed this way before. It's unclear how and why he would be aware of this. But he says these words, and she receives it. She tries to start a slightly different conversation. "Our ancestors worshiped on this mountain, but you say that the place where the people must worship is in Jerusalem." That's part of the difference between the Samaritans and the Jews, is that they had different high holy mountains. One believed the Temple Mount was the primary place, and the Samaritans believed it was another place. And in the context of that, there is this division. So she wants to take Jesus into that tribal distinction that has existed for so long. Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father seeks such as these to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, I know that Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. When he comes, he will proclaim all things to us. Jesus said to her, I am he, the one who is speaking to you even now. This is an extraordinary encounter, and what it underscores is this theme of God's longing for union, for communion, a being with, a compassion toward, an ability to move across lines of distinction. We know that we live in a time of extraordinary division, hostility, anger, violence, brutality, political, rhetorical, social media, on and on it goes daily. We live in a world that screams broken communion daily.